You're in the waterloop. Waterloop.
Welcome to Waterloop, the podcast helping water leaders to discover solutions and drive change. I'm the host, Travis Loop. How does someone develop the mentality of a mentor and create opportunities for others? For Tim Alston, it started in high school when the people selected for a leadership program didn't reflect the diversity of the student population. That sparked Tim to start a mentorship program for younger students of color in the local community and launched him on the path of helping others to enter STEM education and occupations. In this episode, Tim discusses what motivates him as a mentor and how he has encouraged minorities to pursue STEM at the University of Illinois, the American Society of Civil Engineers, and in his role as a plant manager at the Gary Sanitary District. This episode was made possible by support from Spring Point Partners. Now to the conversation.
You're in the waterloop.
Tim, really happy to have you on the podcast here. Really interested in your story, and all the work that you've done all along the way to try to build mentorship programs, to try to mentor people, to try to build more opportunities for people like yourself. I think that it's really inspiring, kind of the path you've been on, and want to share it with people, and also share a little bit about how you've done it. So let's kick it back all the way to high school here, because that's kind of where you started this practice of yours, if you will.
Right.
Talk about that in high school when you kind of first started a program to create opportunities for people to get involved, especially in STEM.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks for having me on, Travis. So for context, I'm from Maryland. And
I am too, so we share that, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Community neighbor.
That's right.
But yeah, so the high school, the area I grew up in was pretty diverse. It's one of the most diverse counties in the nation, Montgomery County. The high school I was at the time, Seneca Valley High School in Germantown, Maryland, reflected that diversity. We were very diverse. We're exposed to a lot of different people from different backgrounds and different, walks of life. And it was really invaluable. And I said all that because there was a stark difference between the representation in leadership and representation in amongst the student body for those who wanted to be seen, be leaders, ambassadors. And, those students who were called upon for those opportunities did not reflect the diversity of the school. For example, my senior year of high school, I applied for this program called Eagle Ambassadors. Our mascot was the Screaming Eagles, and the whole point of the Eagle Ambassadors was to serve as student leaders, help create programming for the school, for our class, as well as being seen as the up and coming, if you will, leaders of the high school for each class. So. Each class had Eagle Ambassadors, and what I was noticing is that no one, of color was really being picked to be a leader, and that didn't sit right with me because I applied to be Eagle Ambassador, and I was well known in school. I knew a lot of the students. I was involved in honors, AP. So, I thought that it would just be, formality for me. Not to toot my own horn, but I was very involved in the high school, but I was even selected for that program, and everyone who was selected was, did not reflect the diversity of the high school. There was a lot of white students who were picked, and Asian students as well, and that didn't sit right with me. So I got together with other students who I knew applied, some of my friends in my class, and we said, hey, well, let's do something our last year here where we can have some ownership, we can control the narrative, and we can still serve the community and give back to folks who look like us, and to find some type of support system. So I met with one of my homegirls at the time, and we decided that we wanted to do some type of after-school mentoring program for students that lived in the community who were, at the middle school level, and for those students who would eventually go to our high school. So we wanted to aim at the 8th grade level, And we were targeting that community because we knew that a lot of the schools in the area, they were diverse, yes, but there were still a lot of gaps in terms of learning and understanding with the black and brown students. So we wanted to serve as role models and show like, hey, like we're here, we're in the community, we want to help you guys, we want to be a mentor, a role model, and just show you the way, and just help create exposure and access. So we decided to start the after-school program called Promise. It's called Partners Reaching Out, Molding Minds into Scholars of Excellence. And I recruited a lot of my friends, and it reflected the diversity of the school. And we would, after school, like once a week or a couple of times a week, go to a different middle school and do homework help with select students who are either struggling in math or science. And we would be their tutor, their mentor. We would help set up games and just, become like a big brother, a big sister to these eighth graders who are looking up to us as like these seniors who are, in the last year of high school. And it was really good. It was a really good opportunity that we did. And that program lasted, even well after I left and graduated from high school. So that's kind of how I started off wanting to be a mentor and giving back to my community, especially.
I love that, like you weren't starting something to try to really benefit yourself or get you into that Eagles thing, right? You were like thinking of others and thinking down the line. And I guess that's what mentorship is all about, right?
Mm-hmm. For sure. It definitely is.
Then you went on to college. Talk about your college journey, what you studied, and how you saw a need to do something kind of similar or be involved in similar efforts there.
Yeah, for sure. So for my undergrad, I went to a historical black college and university called Claflin University. It's in South Carolina. And I took that and I went to grad school at the University of Illinois. Thankfully, I had a mentor from Claflin who pushed me to apply to U of I, short for University of Illinois, for the engineering program there. Now, I went to Claflin and I graduated with my Bachelor's of Science degree in environmental science and chemistry. So I didn't have that strong engineering background, but my mentor at Claflin, he was an environmental engineer. He said, look, there's going to be a lot of good opportunities in that field going forward. This was back in 2014, 2015. So he kind of pushed me to apply, even though I didn't have that strong background. So I applied to U of I. I was able to visit the campus and just meet professors in the civil and environmental engineering program there. Loved it. And I was able to get a fellowship to study for my master's and PhD at U of I. Excuse me. So with that, I said all that because my journey wasn't conventional in terms of where I am today. Like I always had mentors in my life, either giving me encouragement, helping me see things I didn't see, and doing things that I was doing with students who are younger than me. So that's what this whole mentorship thing is so vital, because without that, I wouldn't be where I am today. So at U of I was a part of this program called ARISE, and that stands for Academic Redshirt in Science and Engineering. And this program was geared towards helping low-income students from Chicago, minority students, of course, who were excellent and excelled at their high school, but for whatever reason, their high school didn't have the resources or the best teachers or other things, so they weren't able to get maximize their high school experience like students who were coming from the bigger name high schools like Whitney Young in Chicago or Lane Tech. So this program was created to help get students who want to study engineering from low-income backgrounds to excel well. They just need that extra push or that extra class that they needed to take that the high school didn't provide, whether it was Calculus 1 or pre-calculus, whatever it was. So with this program, like a red shirt in football, you provide full funding for 5 years. And the first year of their college experience, they have a graduate mentor, myself, and I help them with their engineering curriculum. So we have them take classes that they should have taken their senior year in order to get into the engineering school by the time they get to U of I, and they take it their first year. So a lot of prerequisites, Cal 1, you got maybe Physics 1, things like that. And then I'm there to kind of fill in the gap, provide mentorship, homework help, helping them navigate the campus life, and just being there for them. And it was really nice. It was a great program, and it was the inaugural program when I started it in 2017 with the College of Engineering, and it's still going on today at U of I. And they're bringing in more and more students from Chicago area, Chicagoland, and just giving them a chance. That's all a lot of these students need is a chance and exposure. So, yeah.
That's awesome. So you ended up, after all, at that big university, right, that you were thinking of in high school.
I did. Yeah.
You know, you had a good journey along the way, though. Other lessons, other experiences that you could build on.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I think you've also hit on, you know, why mentorship and some of these kind of programs like Arise or Promise, whatever, are necessary, right? Like people there's not an equality of chances, and people are not getting the same experiences to put them in that position to succeed, right? So like these programs need to be created, and then people like you need to be there to be mentors and help people along the way, right? Is that the gist?
Yeah, that's it.
So you get out of school, you go on to I think your professional career, or maybe you got involved with the American Society of Civil Engineers student chapter when you were there, and started working with that and a Mosaic program. What's that?
Yeah, so Mosaic is a committee of ASC that stands for the Members of Society Advancing an Inclusive Culture. And it's an advisory planning committee that's only been around for 3 years. So I'm in my third year of being a part of Mosaic. And it really is a committee that helps support and push DEI initiatives, especially when we talk about JEDI, justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. And that's the big word that a lot of companies and everything is being shaped around now, in terms of, you know, how do we make sure that our industry, our workforce, our policies, the way we interact with folks are equitable and inclusive. So our committee helps create policies. We help push initiatives, and we try to align our goals with the ASCE board of directors. And for example, this past year, we came up with a strategic action plan after 2 days of meeting with other members who, applied to be a part of Mosaic and were accepted in or selected in. And we got together and met with some of the board of directors from ASCE and kind of just talked about, what does DEI look like in today? What does that look like in the board? What does that look like within our organization? Like, how do we help push these initiatives? And we created a best practice guide, for example, that's up on the ASC website now, that kind of details a lot of different things in terms of how to make sure that you're including everyone in terms of, leadership positions, promotions, equitable infrastructure. Like, what does that look like on the civil engineering side in lower income communities where a lot of the infrastructure is not equitable? And yeah, it's just a growing committee, and we're always looking for new membership. But our goal is really to just help push initiatives, policies through ASCE, through industry, and even with our student outreach at the local student chapter level. So we're kind of there, and we can get called upon to put on a workshop about anything related to DEI, or to come up with a strategic action plan or a best practice guide. So we're evolving, we're growing, and I love to be a part of that, because I think it's an important, just an important initiative to have, wherever you are in life. So just think about how to be more equitable and inclusive.
Yeah. Why are some of these programs so important when it comes to STEM? It seems like that's a big area for mentorship opportunities, like you said, especially for people of color. Why is STEM such an area of need?
I feel like STEM is such a big area of need because, you look around your life, and everything comes back to STEM eventually. Like, science, technology, engineering, math, those four things, they really run and, they run society, honestly. Like, I'm just being frank. So
yeah, I'm trying to convince my 14 and 12-year-old of the same thing, right? They're like,
and
what?
yeah,
They're like, why do I have to
nothing's
do
wrong
why do
with
I have to do this math? What is algebra? What's the point of this? And I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
it'll make more sense one day. Just, you know.
Right, exactly. And even now, like, as an engineer, I'm not always, calculating all the time or remembering formulas I did as a child, but it just STEM learning just helps, frame, helps frame your way of thinking better in terms of, um, solving problems. I guess growing up, when you look around, like in terms of roadways, infrastructure, products, how things are made, just all that is related to STEM. And a lot of solutions to a lot of issues that lower income and impoverished communities, which happen to be a lot of communities of color, could be solved with STEM, right? So who better to tackle these issues than those who are living in those areas? So I feel like exposing a lot of Black students and people of color to STEM will just help, give back to their own community because they understand the issues that happen with environmental injustices or things that shouldn't be happening, like in Flint or Jackson, Missouri, where the water is, contaminated with lead. So it's really good to expose our community with STEM because those are the same issues that are going to come forth and, affect us the most in our community. So, and then when I look around and I go to different conferences and when I go out to different career fairs and industry or what have you, I don't see a lot of representation of Black and Brown, professionals, whether they're engineers, whether it be in water industry. So I think it just means that we need to do a better job of exposing those careers and those opportunities at the younger K through 12 level, so people can know, like, hey, like I don't have to just go, I don't have to just go to school and just, do business or finance. Like I don't have to do the military because I have no other options. I don't have to go to do a trade, and nothing's wrong with any of those things. But I feel like just getting us more involved in these STEM fields will just help our communities even more so. So I think that's why it's important to expose our people to those fields at a younger age, just so they have that in their mind when they're getting ready to go off and make decisions on college or things of that nature.
Yeah. One of the things that you and I talked about before this podcast was a little bit about the authenticity of some of these programs or some of the efforts that companies, employers might put behind them. Like you mentioned that DE&I, JEDI, these are big emphasis areas right now, right? But some of the things that are happening might not be as authentic. It might just be for numbers or for show, right? What do you think the difference is, like between a really genuine effort to try to address some of this stuff and maybe some of the window dressing kind of thing?
We all understand that companies, businesses, you get certain benefits if you meet certain quota, right? Like if you have a certain number of, at some companies, certain number of diversity at your company, it looks better. I mean, it looks good. You can promote that on your pages, make it seem like you guys are really inclusive and equitable. But you can really tell if it's genuine when you look around the office or your room and then see who's actually in this room, and who's actually making decisions. Is it just coming from the same type of people all the time? And you're just hiring folks of color or women or folks who, handicapped, disabled, whatever. Are you just hiring these people just to fill a number or fill a quota or to check a box, but then not having any action behind it? And you could tell that easily by just, the workplace environment. Like, if you're in the office and you're the one of only or one of few, that's not diverse. I mean, now if you are like, a trailblazer and you're like the first one, and then each and every year you see more and more efforts to get more inclusive and equitable through the workforce and through hiring and things of that nature, then that's something you can easily say that, okay, well, they're actually trying to make a difference here. And then, for example, like you can always tell, like I can tell when I would go to career fairs, and I would kind of be like the Black representative of my company, and I would have students of color come up to me and like, oh, hey, like, oh, I haven't seen a Black engineer from X, Y, and Z company before. Like, I'm interested in applying here. Like, how would you say the workplace environment is? And if I can't really tell the truth on that and say, well, I'm really the only one, and I've been the only one here for the past 3 to 4 years, I mean, that dissuades other students from coming to that company because it just doesn't paint the best picture. Now, those are just different ways you can tell if it's genuine and not genuine. So that's how I frame it to be, honestly.
Sure. I have a couple like how-to questions to conclude our conversation here. So you've been you've been involved in a lot of these different efforts right along the way in your current position. How do you get support from your employer, to put time into a committee or into a mentorship? How do you go about doing that?
You're interested in being more involved in the community, being a mentor, serving on a advisory committee for outside organization. As long as you are passionate about it and you really want to do that work, then you can convince your employer that that's something that would benefit both them and yourself. Now, there's some intricacies with that. Like if you're doing a lot of your volunteering like during a 9-to-5 schedule all the time, and that it doesn't really have anything to do directly with your job, then that might come with some, pushback. But if you're doing whatever you need to do after work, or maybe here and there, you might want to do a speaking engagement at a local high school and just talk about your company and then talk about what you do. Those are things that your employer can look at and say, hey, like, they're actually promoting the brand of our company, as well as doing something in the community to help bring potential new employees to the company. So it's really a fine line between aligning your personal interest into being a mentor and serving with also the company or the organization that you work for. And at the end of the day, you can do whatever you want outside of your 9-to-5 or whatever your work schedule is. But if you want to actually get more support and, even get more involvement from folks that work at your company, it's always good to talk to your boss and just talk to your coworkers like, hey, like, I'm interested in doing this student outreach chapter with ASCE, which is a professional organization. How can we kind of leverage that with the things that we're doing? Or, are you interested in actually joining me? So just keeping the lines of communication open is very key. And if you're getting pushback from your boss on doing those things that are helping the community, then I don't know if that's someone you want to work with or if you want to be there. So that's something that I've done.
And what about for you? You're a working professional. You got a lot going on. You got your career, right? And your responsibilities and trying to grow and all that. How do you make the time and find the energy to do this big, extra important thing?
Yeah, so it's definitely time management is key. Like I'm involved with NSBE, the National Society of Black Engineers. I'm the programs chair for that chapter. I'm involved with Mosaic. I do part-time remote college coaching on the side, like 7 hours a week to low-income students in Chicago and Michigan virtually. So I've definitely got a pretty busy schedule. But the thing is, I enjoy doing this stuff. So it doesn't feel like work to me. It feels like just a hobby, if that makes sense. So I don't know. I just find time to make time for the things I'm passionate about. So if that means that I have to work an extra couple of hours, a couple of days a week doing some mentorship, that's fine with me. If that means that my Saturday morning, I'm not sleeping in till 12 noon. Instead, I'm going to this Legos robotics fair to volunteer at 9 p.m., 9 to 12. I can do that because it's fun for me. It's good for folks to see people of color who look like them in fields that they've maybe have imagined being in or haven't imagined being in. So it's really just checking to see what you're able to do. Now I know myself. I know that I can do a lot of different things and be good at it. Other people might want to focus on one group or one initiative. That's fine. Find time for what you're able to do. Don't overextend yourself, because then you're not going to give your full self to whatever you're doing. So I think my schedule works out where I have a few things NESB related on this day of the week. The next day of the week I know will be ASE, and the weekend is like open. I can volunteer or do whatever. And it's not every weekend or every week something's going on, but I've made time. I'm passionate about it.
You got the engineering stuff there. You got it mapped out, right? You got the plan it out. Structure.
Yeah, they definitely have a structure, process, road mapping, all of that.
Yeah. I meant to ask this in the beginning. Could you just talk about what your career, your job, where you are, what you do?
Yeah, for sure. So, by degree, I'm an environmental engineer. I got my master's in environmental engineering in 2018 from U of I. And for 2 years, I was working as an environmental consultant, where I was doing a lot of groundwater sampling work, going to Superfund sites. Those are sites that are, designated by the EPA or the environmental department as contaminated, doing field studies, investigations, crunching numbers, doing contaminant studies. And I was doing a lot of environmental contamination and remediation work. And then I transitioned from doing environmental consulting to the wastewater and stormwater industry as a process control engineer currently at one of the largest plants in Indiana at the Gary Sanitary District. The average flow is like 100 and, their peak flow is like 150 gallons of water. And my position here is I help manage operations of the plant as well as maintenance. So I help optimize process control adjustments in terms of, how the plant's running, how the different units within the plant are running. And I do a lot of the also, RFQs with contractors. I work with outside engineers if they have a project or design build that they want to do here at the plant. I help manage the capital budget. So I do a lot of different things within operations and maintenance at this large wastewater treatment and stormwater treatment plant, which helps, quite frankly, it helps keep the environment safe. And people don't think about what happens when they flush the toilet or what happens when we have a big storm and where does the water go. It comes to our plant. So we have to treat it so it comes out clean, if anything, doesn't, detrimentally hurt the environment or for public health reasons. And it's been interesting. I never thought I would be in this industry, but I've been learning a lot. And it's a key source of revenue for the city, as well as an important part of the city. Stormwater, wastewater treatment is a huge thing that people don't think about, but it has to be done, and it's stable. There's a lot of different opportunities here at the district. You can be an engineer, work in maintenance, sales, admin. You'd be a sampler in the lab. So I definitely want to push for more exposure to the water industry, to our communities, because it seems like we have a lot of those issues in getting clean and safe and drinkable water, potable water in lower income communities, as we've seen with Flint and Jackson.
Sure.
So,
Well, yeah. Tim, I really appreciate the time for the conversation, and I really appreciate everything you're doing, that you've done along the way and you're continuing to do to make things better for other people, pave the way for others, get them engaged, get them interested, So thanks for the conversation and for all your service to others, Thank you.
No, thank you for having me. I'm glad to give the opportunity to speak my truth and hopefully inspire folks into giving back, being a mentor, Waterloop.
Thank you for listening to the podcast, and thanks to SpringPoint Partners for the support. To find all episodes, sign up for email updates, and connect on social media, visit waterloop.org.